welcome to another episode of HR Nightmares. I haven't been in the studio for a while. I missed the last couple episodes, but they were excellent. So thank you for holding the fort down.
Yeah, I forgot
welcome.
all about that.
It was
already.
Yeah, so today is all about answering audience write-ins. We got a ton of audience write-ins and absolutely love that we're adding listeners in all the states and all over the globe, and we're getting a lot of write-ins from states that we've never heard from folks.
Yeah.
So that's all good.
Yeah, we love the listener Q&A episode. So it's fun when it's just the three of us doing all the things people are curious about.
Trying to answer appropriately with realistic advice. For those of you that are listening, this show is all about giving you realistic advice. We think our advice is great, but you're not paying us to be your HR consultant. So although we are HR consultants, we're not your HR consultant, but we'd love to be your HR consultant. So give Leath HR Group a call. Follow us on all the socials. Make sure you're hitting subscribe on YouTube so you can get all the updates. Hopefully some of these questions recently rolled in because this episode is going to drop a couple days after we record. So it's going to be very timely for folks that just submitted, whether it's on TikTok or through Instagram or through our website or also on YouTube. I think we've got questions from all of those platforms. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to try to stump us.
Yeah.
You ready?
Ready.
I'm ready.
Let's go.
All right. Let's hit it. Let's start with this question that was written in from Atlanta, Georgia. This is a pretty easy one. I think it's pretty interesting. A coworker blasted my new salary to the entire HR team, including me and our boss. I guess they're on the HR team, plus two other coworkers not in HR. Should she be fired? This is a yes or no question, but I think there's more to this.
No,
No,
she should
okay,
be fired.
No.
Yeah, no.
No. It was, should she be coached about confidentiality and privacy? I mean, I guess we'd have to know a little bit more about, like, the positions and stuff that they're on. I mean, nobody should be talking about other people's salaries, really, but, like, according to Fair Labor Standards Act, employees can talk about salaries and compensation and frustrations and compensation. Now, is it appropriate to say somebody else's salary in front of people that are in HR, not in HR, regardless? No, it's not. Is it something that we should fire someone for? No, not unless it's a consistent problem and there's other issues.
And the other thing is that there's becoming some legislation down the pike about transparency and pay, all of the information about that.
I'm struggling with this.
It is a
Pay
hard
transparency.
thing.
Yeah. Do you want to divert topics? We get into pay transparency.
I mean, seriously
today?
though, but and a lot of bosses want to. I don't know, like when you get into clients, especially smaller clients, they're like, you need to tell everybody to stop talking about their pay, and it's like, well, you can't really do that.
You're like, whoa. In fact, let's not do that.
Yeah,
it's a direct violation.
Against the law.
Yeah, like this is private, but it's not like totally confidential. But yes, they shouldn't put your salary on blast. They definitely need to be coached. Let's talk about pay transparency just for a second, though. So what are you guys doing with respect to pay transparency and job postings? I'm all about putting a salary range out there so that people can either take themselves out of the running or not apply for a job or know, oh, yeah, this is a great next step for me in my career. I can make a little bit more money, do a little bit better for my family because it's paying more than what I make right now. But, like, how do you set the range? Because there's some companies that are setting it like $0 to $1 million and, like, basically everyone's saying
ranges?
That's stupid.
Yeah, that's stupid. Well, it defeats the whole purpose. It's them following a law because it became a law, but faking it, right? And it's like,
it's a workaround.
Sorry that California passed this, and now, you've got to set this because you're a business that's based in California, but you can't just put $0 to $500,000. That's not a pay range. So the whole point is to put the actual pay range in which you have set for that job within your company. And hopefully you have good practices around setting good pay ranges. But the whole point is to be transparent, which in that means being honest.
Well,
right?
where it gets weird is when you've got somebody that's like really low or underwater on the range and then somebody who's getting paid above range, and now you've got a big wide range and your current employees see the job posting and they're like, well, hold on a second. Like the high of the range is 90 grand. Well, I'm making 60. Why aren't I making 90? You're going to pay somebody that doesn't know anything about our company $90,000? And I'm saying, I might.
Yeah, I might.
It's hard. So I work. So you know how I'm working with a lot of small businesses, and we had a real problem. There was a job posting. It was for an hourly employee position, and it caused so much problems because we didn't do a good job, or we didn't do a good job about changing everyone's salary rate of pay prior to posting that ad. So we had about 6 people that were lower than the minimum that we were looking for.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
problem.
No, that's a big problem.
That's a huge problem. And so it's like, before I think you post anything, I think you need to really take a look at your census and make sure that everyone is being paid at least the minimum of what you're offering the new position for.
Again,
sure.
it's like, if you're going to go through the compensation benchmarking practices and analysis you need to, the second part of that is to actually get people into the right ranges. And that may take a couple of years based on your budget, based on what's going on in the business. And that's realistic. But unfortunately, North Carolina, which is where we live, is not a state yet who has full pay transparency, but it's coming. It's going to continue to come. And I think the businesses, especially that we work with here, are not quite ready for it for that reason. We have a lot of managers that aren't comfortable having compensation conversations. So there's a range for a reason. And yes, you may earn $60,000 and we may pay someone new $90,000. Let's talk about why. And we have to have some good reasons as to why too. It can't just be because, well, the market for talent is higher than the internal talent. That's not a reason. The reason is about experience, where people are placed in the range, what they're bringing to the job, what the budget is for the job. But we see a lot of people that are very uncomfortable having those conversations, which is why they're having trouble navigating pay transparency laws.
What's pretty interesting too is like, well, that's not, a lot of managers want to say, well, that doesn't feel right. That's not what I pay for a, support specialist or whatever. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter what you feel like is the right range to pay. It's what the market is telling us.
Yeah.
And it's data driven.
Yeah, it's data driven.
So like,
sorry,
it's not an opinion.
If you want to put your head in the sand and just pretend like markets and benchmarks and other companies aren't hiring the same type of person for more money, then go ahead and do that, but you're going to lose these people.
Or it's not what you were making when you had that job 15 years ago.
Right.
The job is different now. The range has increased. So I see a lot of that sometimes, is leaders have a hard time wrapping their head around the salary because they had that same exact job that they're the leader of now a decade ago or 2 decades ago. And you're like, well, unfortunately, the market has gone up.
Yeah, that was 95.
Yes. So I see that a lot too. They have a hard time like wrapping their head around pay.
I have to say, for the recruiting piece of our work, I like the ranges posted, because I think a lot of people, especially maybe going into the nonprofit sector, they're like, oh, I'm going to make this much money because this is exactly what I want to do. And then you post the range and they're like, oh,
yeah.
Well, is there any wiggle room? And you're like, not really.
Yeah,
not really. Well, it saves a lot of time because it's one of the first things I go over in just like an introductory phone screen type of call. Because if we're way off on the pay and there is no room to change,
time.
Let's not waste the candidate's time and let's let them go look for something else. So it would be really helpful just to put it out there and put an honest range. Even if you tighten it up a little bit or you just kind of start, maybe don't go to the highest, but it needs to be fairly close to like what the actual range is.
I want to be controversial just for a second. So I hate posting. So for reasons I like posting is because it detracts the wrong people, attracts the right people. But like, I hate posting it because most candidates think they're like over like self-worth. They have too much self-worth. They're overinflated and they want to go automatically to the high end of the range. Okay, well, you're 22. You just graduated. You don't get the high end of the range for this role. So a range, people always go to the high end. So like,
everyone wants to get paid more. That doesn't mean we're going to do that.
So let's say like North Carolina moves to a pay transparency. What are the repercussions if I don't follow that? What if I just don't want to do it and whatever? Well, the risk is low and like, what am I going to get fined?
There's a lot of legal fines on the states that have it already.
Is there?
Yeah. So
how bad? Like $100 or like $1,000?
I forget what the company was.
You're like, I'll take $100 fine.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a parking ticket.
Yeah.
Lisa, that's not the right thing to do.
I'm not advocating that people don't follow the rules, but
no, there are fines associated with it. Was it like Twitter or who was it that said they weren't going to do it? And they post all those fake ranges. Well, who was the company? I don't know.
I'm sure it was Twitter.
Listener, write in. It was like LinkedIn or I don't know. It was someone. Wouldn't it be crazy if it was LinkedIn?
Yes, that would be.
I don't remember who it was. That did all of the fake ranges. And the fine was hefty.
Okay.
It was hefty.
I'm with you on one thing. I think that every single person ever that I've ever interviewed always wants the highest point of the range.
Why wouldn't you?
But the other thing is then you're also kind of starting off this relationship kind of in the negative. Like, oh, we don't value at the high end. We value in like, if it's an $80,000 high end and we're going to pay you 72, they're like, why didn't I get that? So you're starting off the foot.
Yeah, psychologically, it feels like you think I kind of suck.
Exactly. And so I like your idea because I don't know. Yeah. You want to start off on a good
posting the ranges?
No, I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that. No, Lisa, I don't agree with that. No, but I do think it's interesting because I don't want to start off an employee on the wrong foot thinking that we don't value them or they're not going to get the high end.
I think that what we have to do, though, is start off on the right foot of the fact that we make business decisions. And we have to be able to talk about why we made the decision to place them where we did, right? And so what we have to start off is by saying, like, here's how we go through. Here's our compensation philosophy. Here's how we mapped you into the range. And kind of go through what that process looks like and say, at the end of the day, compensation, while it's very personal to the individual, it is a business decision. And we have to make a good decision based on the other people that are in there from an equity standpoint, right? And to think you're ever going to get the max of the range, no, that's not realistic. You have to have room to grow within that range. You're going to take that job and probably be in that job for a handful of years. So if you want a incremental pay increase each year, we have to have room for you to grow within that pay range. But yeah, I don't know. We went through a whole, like, at my company that I worked at for years, we went through a whole, like, we changed the whole, like, leveling of how we did things and went through a whole, like, pay transparency and all these different things. And they were tough conversations when we got real honest with people of what the ranges were. And most of us knew kind of the bands, and the ranges became wider. The bands were smaller. The ranges became wider. But yeah, we had to have honest conversations, be like, listen, you've been in this job 2 years, but the people in these jobs, some of them have been at 10 years. They're at the top end of the range where you're at the middle, right?
Well, and that's something important too. I do that with some of my smaller companies is we put together kind of a sheet of very data-driven, ideas of like, okay, where does the education attainment fall? Where does the number of years of experience, does supervisory or budgetary factors in? And then you can kind of, I feel more comfortable because then you actually have a piece of paper.
There's a matrix on how to get promoted.
It wasn't like a gut, ooh, I'm going to pay you this.
You went to this college and I love that college. So bing, you get this,
Right. I mean, it wasn't subjective.
If you went to Penn State, you get a higher salary.
Wittenberg all the way.
If you need help figuring out what each unique role in your organization is worth and what those ranges should be, Leath HR Group is a great company to call to get that work done. You don't need to be wasting your time doing that. All right. Let's tackle this first question from Utah. So this isn't exactly an HR problem. It's more of a problem with HR.
Oh,
my HR administrator is also my supervisor. She has cussed at me. It's not like cussing with me. I like to cuss with people. And has been saying bad things about me behind my back to other coworkers. Okay, that's not good. I've not said anything bad about her or done anything to make her dislike me. I've always done what the company has asked with no complaints. Other coworkers have expressed that she is a bully. I have thought about reporting her to the owner of the company or the CEO, but I am afraid this will cause more problems. Thanks for reading, and I look forward to your feedback.
Well, hello, Utah. That's our first Utah call.
Yeah, Utah. Know nothing about the state or the laws of anything, so I'm glad this wasn't a compliance question.
I mean, come on. Like, do we know what the slogan for Utah is? Like, I love...
I think it's a skier going like this.
Is it? My favorite's New Hampshire. It's like live free or die.
But I'm telling you what,
Utah.
That's awful. And it's funny, sometimes you have a higher expectation, at least I do, for our profession, that you're not going to be talking about your employees behind their backs. You're in HR. Like, step it up.
Right.
So for that regard, I kind of looked at this question beforehand, and you never want to say, just maybe put your resume out there and try to get another job. But I would, because who really would want to work for somebody like that? And I don't know.
Do you know what Utah's slogan is?
What?
Industry. That's why your HR person sucks.
Industry?
That's literally their slogan.
That is like...
That explains literally everything.
That's why.
You live in Utah and the slogan is industry.
It should be ski.
Yes.
I thought it would be something to do with being Mormon, but no.
Like loving like God's country or something like that.
I don't know. Okay.
Industry.
Sidebar.
Yeah, I mean, if your boss is talking behind your back, I would not feel great.
First of all, I would leave.
I'd be packing up.
I'd be like, at first I'd be like, we need to have a serious conversation because I'm thinking about leaving because word on the street is that
you don't like me and you're talking about me.
You're talking about me, and that's completely inappropriate and unprofessional. And if it doesn't, like, tell me a little bit of your perspective. And like, if that person denies it or says, oh, well, there could have been something that was misconstrued, it's like, get out of there. You don't need to deal with that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. These questions are always so one-sided. And it's like, okay, we're making the assumption that this is a great employee and we're believing that this employee has not done anything or said anything, right?
Even if they had, these are like, they shouldn't be talking about them behind their back.
Word on the street, right? And it's like, okay, well, it's hard because we've been doing this a long time. And I think all of us have the confidence to go and confront someone directly when that's happening. Yeah. So I'm putting myself into the shoes of like, the HR coordinator or whatever this person's role is that they're reporting to an HR advisor or business partner. So they probably don't have that, confidence in their professional acumen and being able to go in and like really say this without fear of retaliation or something. But yeah, I believe that you got to go in and actually say, there's a time to stand up for yourself and go in and say, hey, I hear this. Is this true? Right.
And if you're bottling it up enough to write into HR nightmares, it's time to have that conversation.
Yeah, have the conversation. And if that's the person you would report a concern like that to, but you can't because it's her, then who's above her or him or whatever, and go and express your concern. So even if you do end up leaving this organization because you can't work for that individual, like, this is a learning experience. This is time for you to actually go and say, I'm going to have the tough conversation, even though I'm uncomfortable, even though I fear retaliation, and I'm going to do it anyways because other people also feel like this individual is a bully. So
now on the flip side. Now you said we always like take it one-sided and we think this person's a great employee or whatever. As an HR administrator or head of HR or HR manager, like, it's our job to talk about people. We literally have to talk about who's good, who's not doing a great job. Do they have personal things going on in their life? How do we help them? How do we get them performing back to standard? And I don't know if some of this I'm talking about people stuff has to do with this person's performance or assessment on their skills, competencies, behaviors, professionalism. So like, we don't know if maybe another manager or confidant of that HR person is like, not being professional themselves and leaking information that is legitimately something HR needs to be concerned with. So
I know I was taking it more as just gossiping.
Yeah, me too.
But I see that's how it read, certainly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've probably had those moments where employees felt like I was talking about them. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm talking to your manager. Now, I'm not going around talking to your peers about you, right? But I am talking to your manager about you. I'm advising the person that I'm a business partner of about your performance. Like, and you may take that very personally and negatively that we're, bullying you. But that's not the case. We're really talking about your lack of performance here. So that could sometimes like these ones are a little bit hard for me because I like to have good belief that's like, okay, is that the situation? Because I just hear so much go straight to like toxic workplace and bullying and a lot of people, I've heard a couple of people that I know personally say like, my new boss is toxic. And I'm like, well, I don't think she confronted you about this just out of nowhere. So something must have happened or occurred. You just were like doing a great job and never said anything. And all of a sudden she comes to you and says, I hear you're talking smack about me and my new job. Like, I don't know. I find that hard to believe. So
I always do. I feel, because I think I can just imagine my first job when I was just newly out of college with my first job. And it was hard. It is hard for some people. I think you guys are much different from me, but I think it is hard for some people to have those big confrontations with someone that they esteem or in a different position, higher position. Let's say you're, out of college for a year and your boss has been there for a number of years. She's our age. I think that there would be some intimidation, natural intimidation. So yeah, I think you have to bolster yourself up and do it.
Yeah.
It's
not to say,
it's going to be difficult.
It's difficult.
It's difficult and you're going to feel awkward, but it's going to be really a great learning experience.
Exactly.
A mature way to maybe approach it with the person would be to schedule some time with them and then go into their office and say, hey, it's come to my attention that you have some feedback for me. And I just wanted to, open myself up for you to give me that feedback directly versus having it come through somebody else. So that might be a good way.
I think
I love
so
that
too.
idea.
That's like less like, you're
talking about me. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Instagram. I love how Gabby tells us like where these come from. It's very fun. Hi, love all your videos. Oh, thanks. And helpful tips. I'm also working in HR and I've been in the industry for 6 years. I have been at my current job for 7 months now as a generalist. My coworker went on leave about 6 weeks ago. I've been doing the workload of 2 people and have been thinking of asking for a raise. I have no prior experience as a generalist. Do you think it's appropriate to ask for a raise? Any tips or wording I could utilize when asking? I feel like we've answered this
in so many ways.
How many?
7 months in the job, and she's covering for someone on maternity leave.
For how many months has she been covering?
Well,
it just said 6
it's maternity
weeks.
leave,
6
so I would
weeks?
assume it's a
No.
12-week
You're not going
leave.
to ask for a raise.
But
no.
I'm like, this one's so hard. And you're right. I feel like we've answered this question in like different ways and have had this kind of question before of like, I'm taking on more, the company downsized. Now I have to do the job of one. But I'm like, well, are you working the same amount of hours? Are you working more hours? So maybe you just have to reprioritize and do different things within your day. But it's hard for me to believe, like, unless you can tell me you went from 40 hours a week to now you have to work 70 hours a week to keep up, that it would warrant a pay increase. It's probably just a change of responsibilities and priorities.
I think you need to flip the script and just say, wow, I was awarded this awesome opportunity to shine.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't get that opportunity. You're just like muddling through your day every single day, and you don't get this opportunity to take over, get more responsibilities, even on a short-term maternity leave. And so use it to your advantage. Shine. Really shine.
You're learning something that this other person does.
I feel like we like that. If you could go back to the episode where we've answered a similar, it is like what
are we saying? The exact same words?
Yeah, we're consistent about our advice. I believe we said, like shift the perspective, man. It's a short-term thing.
Yeah.
Like
I like the idea.
Have a good
like,
attitude about it.
From a management perspective, watching someone step up, do a little extra, give me a little discretionary effort on a short-term special project, I'm going to come through with a cash bonus for you at the end of the day.
I agree. I mean, I will say, like, we used to, if that was happening and we were down a manager or somebody had to do more, we would give them a little kicker for the interim. Yeah, certainly.
Send them on vacation, pay for their vacation.
But we don't know. I mean, this is a small company. Can they do that? Like, maybe they were able to take on the extra work because
they had some bandwidth.
They had bandwidth. Anyway.
I just this week sat in a meeting, closed doors, talking about people behind their backs.
Succession planning.
But it was so great because the same kind of thing. The business has kind of gone through some big, tumultuous changes. And so we really took a look at every single person that worked there, and we kind of went through it. It's like, who's really stepped up, who's added more to their plate, who is really like positive and helpful. And guess what? All of those people will be getting a raise.
Yeah.
Doo-doo. Yeah. Yep. And so we just literally went through that whole list today. And I don't think I think it's better when it's coming from, hey, I can see that you're doing a great job and you're really making value for the company, as opposed to saying, I've worked for an extra 3 months and I would like to have a raise. Yeah. Let your work show for you.
You know, your clients that all listen to this podcast, some employees out there are really excited and they're probably not the ones getting the raise.
This is a client in Afghanistan.
They're like, is it me that she's talking about? Am I getting a raise?
Sometimes people think their bosses know all the extra stuff that they do, and they are working really hard, and they do feel like it's going unnoticed. And you have an obligation to manage up. And so if you want to get that raise and you have ambitions, you want to get promoted, then guess what? Every Friday, put a calendar reminder on your calendar at 3 p.m. on Friday afternoon. You pop out a summary email of all the stuff that you did this week. And why don't you let your boss know what you're up to and doing all the stuff that's outside your job description? And if you work for a great company with a good people manager, they're probably going to recognize after you're giving regular updates, like how great you are, and they're going to reward you and take care of you.
Yeah. But some advice to this writer. You can always ask. Yeah. The worst that can happen is they say no.
Right.
So I would say if you feel it's warranted and you really are taking on all of that additional responsibility, say, hey, can I get some extra pay for this 12-week period?
Come with facts.
Absolutely. I mean, all that can happen is they say no.
Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you. All right, let's see. Should I stay or should I go? If you're considering it, you should probably go. Just go. There's a lot of jobs out there.
We don't even have to read the rest of
millions of jobs out there.
Just go.
But find one first.
This is from TikTok. I've been with my current employer for 8 years, which is a long time. In the 8 years I have been with my company, I've had 3 bosses. That's really not bad. First two bosses, great, awesome, open to feedback and suggestions. Current one tends to shut me off, will not listen to my ideas, gaslights me, and is dismissive at times. I've had 3 conversations with him to address my concerns. How do you know as an HR leader when it's time to go due to your boss setting you up to fail?
Oh, this is an HR leader. That's tough. Well, I mean, I think that, again, if you took the time to listen to this podcast and try to get advice, and then you wrote into us and asked this question or are waiting for us to respond, my guess is you already probably know the answer, that it might be your time to go. 8 years is a long time with the company. And I think you got to look at the big picture, right? Is this a company you see your future with? Do you see longevity there? Can you work through this? And if the answer is no, then it's time to start looking, because there are a lot of great roles out there. So it might be time for you to say, what could I be doing next? What position would I be in that I would be happier? It's really important for me to look for a boss that's a mentor to me and can be a great leader. And if I don't have that here and I'm not happy, well, there's a lot of places out there that you can go and be happy. So I always think it's a good time to make a change then.
And I like that 8-year kind of mark to reassess where you are, because it takes maybe 2 years to kind of get up to speed, maybe shorter, and then a couple of years to really just do great work. And then I think at 8 years, you're maybe ready for a new challenge.
Yeah. You've tried some strategic things and initiated some good programs. Yeah, 8 years, then you don't want to get pigeonholed into that company and people look at your resume and think,
that's all you've
done.
That's
all you do. That's all you know.
I say go.
Go. If you had to vote,
I say
what would
do
you
what
say?
you feel is right thing for
2
you.
against 1, you should go.
Go. And tell people to quit their jobs.
Really? We said you
we
don't
do it
have
all
to
the
take
time.
our
We do
advice.
all
It's
the
free
time.
advice.
Yeah.
You're watching this podcast.
Meanwhile,
I
they're
said
going to
go
be
at the
like
beginning, so.
eating can of beans, or like, they gave me this advice and now I'm unemployed.
Oh my gosh. Hey, with the next little bit of the episode, let's shift gears to Beth had some really great topics that she wanted to talk about. So
Beth came so prepared for the pod
Well, girl,
today.
you have
Let me
some
tell
good
you.
ideas, and we're going to talk about
we
it.
want to give
Well,
her full
the first
credit for her preparation after
I
her
would
2-week
really-
hiatus vacation in Europe.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Vacation. I
Vacation.
just got back from vacation to
The Black Forest, where the ham and cakes are.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you. So I have not taken a long vacation in a long time. And I was kind of nervous about it. In all
We've gone 2
actuality,
weeks.
Just about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it honestly made me nervous, because I felt like, oh gosh, there's going to be so many things that drop through the wayside. And I knew when I got back, there was going to be a big, big pile. But I have to say, I have this question from a lot of my friends too. They want to take these long vacations, even a week vacation. And
not long.
You should take a
by the
week
way.
vacation.
but they're
should
just
take
like,
that.
I don't feel like I can. I don't feel like I can. And I think that we as leaders need to really enforce the fact that when you take vacation, you're on vacation, and stop bothering me when I'm on vacation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when I hear people say, I never can use my PTO, or I can't be off a week without everyone calling me, I hate to say it, but I'm like, well, that's on you.
That's
on
a you problem.
That's a you
That
problem.
is, you need to be able to
I get
delegate.
it. There may be really, really tough leaders out there that are constantly bothering you while you're on vacation, but you have to be comfortable drawing those boundaries and being able to say, don't call me. My team is here. Here's the things I did to prepare. Now you've got to prepare. If you're taking 2 weeks off and you're the only one, there's some things that you got to have in place before you go. And you got to over communicate that you'll be gone.
I agree with that.
But at the end of the day, the people that are like, the business is going to crumble if I'm not here. I'm like, that's really, I've never seen that happen
It's like,
before.
here's the pin, and I'm going to pop your ego bubble.
You're not a surgeon. No one's going to die unless you're a surgeon.
No,
But
I've been through a company where the CEO died unexpectedly. And
So have
we
you.
still opened for business that day, right? A $20 billion company, we couldn't crumble. There was a lot of people there, to continue driving that business forward. So I don't know. I just have a hard time with people. I'm like, that's on you. You think you're probably a giver helper, as you're an Enneagram 2, who thinks that everyone relies on you and only you, and you're the only one that can do these things. And if you're not there,
It's gonna crumble.
gosh.
I remember when I
But
first had my first job, and I was a manager of a department when I was so young, 23. And I remember going on vacation with my parents, and my dad was a big, high executive guy. And I was like, oh, Dad, I can't go out right now to play golf. I've got to, get on the phone call. And he said, and it was so humbling because he's like, you know what? If you're a good leader, you won't have to take the phone calls. And I've always remembered that.
Yeah.
I was like, because I really looked up to him and I thought he was great. So that's one thing is I think the managers and people really, I would like for people to listen to this to know that they need to respect people's time off.
Yeah.
And also, what about calling people in the evenings or on weekends? What do you guys think about that for leaders to do that?
Depends what your role is. Like if you're on the C-suite and you're going to have to take those calls, you're getting paid the big bucks.
It's annoying.
Right.
But if we all made a commitment and an agreement, and
boundaries.
The only time it was happening was like those 911, really, maybe our customer, facing type business, and it was a real, like, something big happened and it was necessary. But more than often, I find that a lot of those calls are happening. I'm like, this could have waited till
exactly.
Could have waited till
Call me
tomorrow.
Monday.
This
Don't call me Monday
fresh.
at 7 p.m.
This could have waited. Even I remember even getting those calls on Sunday nights about customer things. I'm like,
this is a Monday thing.
I will be there tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Like, you couldn't have waited. You now ruined my entire weekend because I have to listen to this on a Sunday at 6 p.m. There's nothing I can do.
Respect the boundaries.
I'm not calling this customer on a Sunday night, from home. So the customer will fix that problem tomorrow. There's nothing I can do.
Also, if you can't take an extended vacation, you have the wrong team working for you.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. We took a 2-week vacation, and at the best positive focus when I came back, I said to the executive leadership team at Vanica, I was like, what the best thing was? I didn't worry about a thing because they had it. And even if shit was burning to the ground, they could handle it.
Yeah.
They didn't need me there.
People.
Yeah, exactly.
I took a 2-week. I mean, the first time ever I took a 2-week vacation was in the last year that I worked for that company. And before it seemed like 2 weeks. It was just where I was going. You had to kind of go for 2 weeks. And don't you know, I started preparing them for that 2 weeks 4 months ahead of time.
And you remind them every week in the team meeting, hey, just a reminder, I'm leaving.
And you know what? Everything was fine when I got back. I had a great team. I checked my email. I think I didn't check my email until I landed in the Seoul airport because I had a 9-hour layover. And I'm like, well, now's a great time to catch up on the last 2 weeks of email on my way back.
I was nervous to open it up because I did open it. I got back on Monday. I was like, oh, Lord, here we go. I opened it up. I'm like, it's going to be bad. And it wasn't that bad.
The whole point of us doing this is so that we can go do that.
I know.
Yeah, that's the good part about consulting.
I was I do not feel that way. I mean, I love my clients. If you're all listening, I love you, and I'll check email a lot, but not.
But that's the good part about being
not when I'm in the Black Forest. I'm not checking emails for you or responding.
Here was something really interesting. So you meet people internationally when you're on these trips, and it was so cool to listen to how other cultures have vacation and have breaks.
Oh yeah, all of August in Europe they're off.
They're off.
Yes. Everyone's off.
When I went to Indonesia for 2 weeks, I was with half Americans and half Europeans, 3 people from Germany and Slovakia and Switzerland, I think, and 1 from England, I think. And all the Americans were like, oh my God, we took all this time off work. I hope everyone's okay.
Whoa,
all this
worried,
anxiety. The people from Germany were like, oh, I'm on a 6-month paid sabbatical. I work for Amazon in Germany. I'm like, what? What? Or they're like,
Amazon.
I'm on this is just my first leg of a 6-week trip. This 2 weeks is just my first leg. I have 2 more legs.
Every single
one
I
was
met.
like, you Americans are really
you got
crazy.
it wrong.
You got to
Funny. I love vacation.
2-week vacations are where it's at. I've never done that before until this year. I'm
It's really
I'm
great.
40. We're doing this. So I want to do it again. I'm ready for my next.
Yeah, I know. It gets you excited.
It was fun.
And you get refreshed.
Yeah.
You
get to
I took
actually
one
travel
last year
halfway
for
around
2
the
weeks,
world.
and again, everyone was fine.
Yeah.
They don't need me that bad.
No.
Yeah.
Let's talk about AI and HR recruiting. Do we like it? I love it.
This was one of Beth's
love
topics. I don't know anything about this.
I love it. I pay for the paid Chat GPT. I also use this beta version of the thing called Asterix. I use it every day.
In what capacity?
Okay, so let me talk about how I used it this morning. So I have to pump out a press release, and I put in the guy's resume and asked ChatGPT to summarize it at an 8th grade level in 300 words or less. And then I said, now turn this summary into a press release and include information about our company. And I copied and pasted from like my job postings, what I put in the job. I was like, 85% of this press release was
Done.
And all you got to do is like, well, that's a little weird. That's not really what we do. It kind of changed some of the words. And then you could take what ChatGPT picks up for you, throw it in asterisks, which is basically makes you look. It's another free. You could get this for free. You could get ChatGPT for free too. But if you pay for it, you always get in. Where sometimes when it's heavily used, you can't get in.
Right.
If you don't pay. But like asterisks is free. ASTERIX. I'm going to regret telling everybody about this because I won't be able to get in. But you copy and paste what you did in ChatGPT, throw it in asterisks, and it will take what you wrote and you can condense it, expand it, bulletize it, take bullets and expand it into an essay. You can put a filter on what you've written. So like even if I wrote it, I could be like, oh, that sounds a little casual. I need to sound more formal.
Yeah.
And you can put a professional filter on it. You can put a confident filter on it. You can put a casual filter on it. You can put a friendly filter on it. And
I need to check that out. I've never heard of that.
Kidding. It's like, oh, that does sound very friendly. That's not how it sounded at all when I wrote it. So it's awesome.
I have some leaders that could use the friendly filter.
Tell them about this friendly filter. Everyone, go check the friendly filter out. But it really it cuts your job in half. It's just a force multiplier, right? I don't think, we have to be worried about, okay, everyone's going to go out to ChatGPT and be able to be like a fake HR person and keep you out of trouble or give you good advice on what to do with employee relations. But it's helpful.
What a time waster for you as the chief people officer to sit there and write a press release, right? And that's time intensive to write 300 words, go back, edit it, make it sound good, make sure everything's like spelled correctly. That's where we should be using
it's
AI.
Totally force multiplier.
Yes.
What's
and
also
especially
cool,
as so many people have departments of one, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like
you should be using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And all the other things. Like the other thing that I like is Loom. You can get 50 Loom videos a month for free. I think that's true. Don't quote me on it. You have to go to their website. But it's basically put your head in a little like bubble at the bottom while you present and you're talking and you can record it. So you don't have to like always do the same trainings over and over and over. You do it once, you record it, they see your face as you're flipping through it's just like it looks really nice. And it's good for like content libraries if you're trying to put out, rather than, I don't like reading SOPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice
for
that.
Well, it makes them like really short videos too. So you just, it's like a good, easy resource to send people to as well when they're like those common topics.
Yeah. Sometimes even like asking it, it's almost like a little bit better than Google because you can ask it, hey, help me write a workshop around sales, write a sales training workshop. And it'll spit out like a little outline. Write a sales training workshop for a construction company. Okay, write a sales training workshop for construction project managers. And it'll give you iterations of it. You could say regenerate response. But as you give it prompts, you start to train yourself on how to ask it better prompts to give you what you need. Hey, write me I got a project manager in construction, sales workshop or whatever. And write me 3 role play scenarios where they're handling tough clients who don't want to pay their bill. And it will like, one person play employee, one person play.
I love this. I didn't even know about it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's
Loom.
pretty good.
Loom.
ChatGPT.
That's
back to ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah.
ChatGPT is where it's at. Again,
Loom is like the record. It's another recording
Gotcha.
like device where you can make videos.
I'll tell you something else super cool. So I've used this. You can record your voice, okay? And I'll have to look up what this is called, but you could just go out there and AI voice recorder. So you record about 3 to 5 minutes. The more you record, the better. And you record your voice and then basically, and you try to do like intonation, your normal pitch and how you would talk if you were to be presenting. And then you can literally take your voice recording and type in anything and it will do a voiceover for you.
It's basically like recording the words and taking like the words that we used in between,
and
right?
and then you don't have to worry about saying like pausing, screwing your words up. You just take your own voice, type it all out perfectly in a script, and then it kicks out a voiceover and you just throw that over your presentation.
Nice.
I'm into it.
I love it.
I'm into it.
So I think AI.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, AI, as far as recruiting, when I think of AI and recruiting, I do think of like a lot of the different assessments and some of the behavioral stuff that's being done, some of the matching, like that's kind of how I think of it in recruiting, but I don't do a lot of that part of recruiting. So that's why I said AI and recruiting, I don't really know. I have a certain opinion about all of those different things and whether that really gives you a better candidate or not.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I like it
might
from
be
a
a
recruiter's standpoint. You can
time
copy
saver.
and paste a resume. Like if you got to give executive summaries to like your clients or whatever, you copy and paste a resume into Chat GPT and you say, summarize this in 200 words or less at an 8th grade reading level.
Yeah,
which is what
that's what I mean.
congressmen
Like,
they
I
need
like
all
it
their
more-
they need all their briefings written at like
Right.
7th grade level. So like
But
your
in
clients
terms of,
definitely
like,
need 10th or
sourcing,
7th grade.
I think that sometimes I like to just, I don't know. I like to read the resumes. If I have time, I like to read the resumes because I might see things that I'm like, oh, this could be a good
Well, and
match.
that's what differentiates Leath HR Group when we do your recruiting is like we're not a kid right out of college that's just using AI to do the matchmaking. But you can tell when somebody's written their resume on Chat GPT, write me a project management resume, and they put in a couple of bullets, and there will always be those weird brackets around pieces in their resume. That's how you know they got a robot to write the resume.
Yeah. Which, again, if that's not your skill and you can't afford to go out there and have someone write your resume for you, it's a really good option. But you need to go back and tweak it and humanize it a little bit.
Yeah, you should read it before you send it.
It's like that's where we see it in recruiting, where it's like, okay, we're all about using this. We want to use it to, be efficient and help us do different things. So we have more bandwidth for other more important things.
It's so funny,
you
though.
got to go back and like put the human component behind it a little bit because we're hiring the person, not a robot.
So I just had one that made me laugh so hard because the person must have had that kind of, AI generated resume, and it was for a GIS position. And so we brought him in because his resume was
What is a GIS position?
amazing. It's mapping. It's kind of like a mapping position. And so he was like, yeah, I really love working with GIS. And I was like, you don't know what GIS is because it's never called GIS.
Yeah, no.
So we're like, out the door.
Yeah.
But so
See,
that's kind
where
of a funny
it can be
thing.
hard. It can make it's kind of
But
muddy
the
in the
resume
waters
was
a
so
little
great.
bit.
I'm like, this is our winner.
Wow. That's hard. That's a hard skill set to fake.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And especially when you don't
That's
know
like saying
how
I'm
to
a lawyer, but then like not really being a lawyer and then going in.
or
weird.
just saying like a common word incorrectly. You're like,
Right.
you are a bozo. We don't want you.
My 6-year-old calls Pepsi Pepsi. So it's kind of like that. So, Pepsi. Jis.
But he was so, I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but he was so
Did you
like,
end it right there? You were like, that's not how you say it. You have to go.
We looked at each other and we're like, and then we just wrapped it up really fast.
I'm sorry about that. You're going to have to go. That's not what you call
I
it.
really love working in GIS.
Let's talk real quickly. This will be our last one. This is super relevant. It's popping up left and right. Trends of companies reducing office space to lower overhead. Are they missing opportunities for in-person connections and collaboration? And conversely, return to work policies. So it's just interesting.
I think it's funny because actually the opposite. I mean, Amazon just told their entire remote workforce. Well, I don't know if it's entire. Don't quote me, Amazon, or come after me on this one. But I know people who just lost their jobs this week. So they basically said no more remote. Everybody in office. So a lot of companies are
I have an
like
opinion about that.
reverting back. So I don't know if like all the companies are really downsizing in office space. I think it's happening in both sides. Some are downsizing office space, making people more remote.
Yeah.
They're going to struggle to figure out. If they can figure out how to do it, it can be done. There's a lot of companies that prove that they can have a great workplace culture in a remote environment.
For sure.
There's a lot of companies that can't figure out how to do it, right? So it's a really hard one to answer because we're seeing the ones that tried it revert back. And now we're seeing some of the ones go to it because they think that everyone wants to be a remote worker. So I'm just seeing all kinds of things out there right now.
It's interesting because I work, or one of my best friends' husband works for a office furniture, like the premier office furniture company in the country. And he was saying that a lot of companies that he works in the West Coast, but a lot of the companies that he works with are reducing their like footprint, right? So they don't want to have all this commercial space because people work so well at home. But what they're doing is they're repurposing their space to be more, just kind of more. It's not offices anymore. It's just all open space.
Like more like WeWork type space.
Yeah, like hotel
like
space. It's like
you
can go in.
Yeah,
You've got hot desks and you share there's a lot of desk sharing.
But they really have reduced the size of what they used to have, like by maybe 30%, so 30, 40%. So they don't have the space that they used to have.
Yeah.
And they are saving money.
Some of it's like they may have downsized the workforce to begin with, so they don't need as much space as they had, or they've figured out how to, have less offices and more WeWork space so they can actually have more people in those buildings. So they need space. So, and in some of those big metropolitan cities, it's a cost type thing. So it's like, okay, who can, because we did that at Nordstrom, like way before COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And we were an all like face-to-face business. That was a customer facing business. Those of us that worked in the region, remote was not an option, but in HQ it was, but we were like, we don't need 4 buildings downtown. We got to get down to 3. Like from an expense standpoint, from like, we got all these support roles that like could be flex work. So some would come in the office Monday, Wednesday, some would come in Tuesday, Thursday, and we created like flex spaces for kind of plug and play.
Get rid of a whole building.
We got rid of one whole, and not just a building, a tower. So like we operated 3.5 towers in downtown Seattle. So it's like, from a cost effectiveness, it just made sense. And then thank goodness we did that in pre-COVID because we did reduce the workforce. So.
And you can still have collaborative experiences even if people are 100% remote. I've seen other software companies grow from $1 million to $15 million in annual revenue with a 100% fully remote workforce, but they have good people managers that are doing daily stand-ups. They're requiring people to turn their cameras on so they feel some kind of human connection.
Right.
They're having team meetings weekly. They're doing good one-on-ones. If you're not doing those things, then you should probably have people close by.
Yeah.
But I do feel like maybe Amazon, some of these companies that are like doing mass, like, okay, we're ripping the Band-Aid off and we were comfortable with a hybrid work or remote workforce and now you got to come back to an office space. I feel like they don't have a backbone and they're just trying to force people to quit and they're not willing to just like accept responsibility that they have too many people and they got over their skis and they need to cut costs.
I think
and
they know those people will not return to the workplace.
And they're counting on that.
They're counting on it.
I
think we have a few examples locally that has happened.
I think it's there's no managerial courage there, and I think it's wimpy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we have a great client that we've worked with for years and I support now, and they're an IT company and they're a smaller company, but they've been remote for years and years and years, way before COVID. Their people couldn't be happier. They have a lovely workplace culture. The executive leadership team are great to work for and people are happy. So that's what
it can work.
It can be done.
All right. Hey, that's a wrap. We've covered a lot. We had some laughs. Beth, thank you for all your great ideas.
Lisa gave you some great resources.
See what happens when you get back from vacation?
Yeah,
I like it.
She was cranking.
I like the vacay mode. Vacay Beth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, a little tan, little summer glow.
I loved
good ideas.
Vacation. I know.
Look at this.
On fire.
All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Go check us out on all the socials, LinkedIn in particular, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe so you stay up to date. And go back and watch some of those other episodes. We got a ton of great content out there. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.